Do you like your job?
Yeah, my job is fun. I get to work on a lot of different projects over the course of a year. See a lot of different things. Get to go out to job sites, work with a lot of different people.
How did you discover your current profession?
Uh, so it was truly just a Google search. So from the finished carpentry, I continued on, and my dad told me about architecture. He's like, oh, if you kind of like the design, you like playing video games, maybe you should look at architecture because it's kind of similar to the same thing. You're designing something. So I did, and I was like, I don't really want to be an architect truly. I said more so, I'm more so wanted to be on the engineering side. I thought I wanted to be a structural engineer, kind of stemming from that too. I found the architectural engineering major, which was only offered at certain schools, and then ultimately chose UC because of the co-op program. So went to UC for architectural engineering, and that was the path to where I got to where I am now.
I can't say I can even think of anyone that found their profession like that. That's so intentional, which means that when you went to college, you weren't going into university to discover what you wanted to do and what you wanted to be. You actually went there with the intention in getting a job and doing what you're currently doing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I would say definitely knowing what industry I wanted to be in, and knowing kind of have an idea at least where the major could take me. I would say co-op more so let me know or inform me at least of truly what I wanted to do for the rest of my career.
wow. I actually haven't looked at the research recently, but I know in 2012 I had did an article for the UC paper, and I talked about how 25% of people who graduate actually take a job in the degree that they graduated with. And a huge portion of us absolutely did not even get a job at all that required a college degree. And so it's just interesting stumbling into people like yourself who actually went to university with the intention of actually doing the job in which you're doing, or at least something in that ballpark, which means you weren't wasting time. If you got student loans, you didn't just earn them.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
actually earned the degree you wanted, and now you're paying back that loan or whatnot with money that was actually allocated to it.
yeah,
um,
yeah. True dollars. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So here's the next thing. What was the first profession that you ever wanted?
Yeah, that's interesting. Got to jump back into the memory bank here. You say first profession, so I can definitely say football. Yeah, I thought I was gonna have a football career.
Okay, okay. What
Yeah,
position?
true profession. Yeah, probably wide receiver or DB, defensive back.
Okay, okay. And how far along did you come in making it close to that?
Got close at all. Stopped playing in high school, so yeah,
Oh,
I stopped playing over 10 years ago.
okay. And what made you realize that this ain't it?
Yeah, I realized I was gonna be 5'11". I wasn't the fastest on the team, wasn't the strongest. So I figured I had to might as well focus on academics.
Gotcha. Okay. And so what was the first profession that came to your mind outside of entertainment and sports?
Okay. So that would have been actually building cabinets, actually a finished carpentry worker.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you even come across that thought? And what age would that
So
have been?
my
I guess I should ask.
so that was probably around the high school age, probably about 14,
Huh.
14, 15, and that's what my dad does part time. So he actually builds cabinets, lays floors, does a little bit of drywall work, but he does it for home renovations more so. So just me helping him out every now and then. I was like, oh, this maybe this is something I could do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, man. I mean, you could have said I got the same job as Jesus. Um,
That's interesting. That's a different way to look at that.
yeah, exactly. That's a heck of a job. I think can't nobody talk down on that job. Jesus had
Yeah,
it. What would Jesus
yeah,
do?
yeah.
um, okay, so let's actually ask the most important question at the moment. What job do you do? What's your title?
So I'm an estimating manager at a construction company. And what I do on a daily basis is I'll take our clients' plans for a building, actually quantify those, quantify on the plans, figure out how much square foot of wall we have, how much square foot of flooring and ceiling tiles, and how much structural steel, whether it be concrete or structural steel, how much enclosure, brick, glass, etc. Figure out how much is on the project. We talk with subcontractors, and they actually give us pricing based on the budget. And then we compile everything, make sure logistically, risk-wise, and make sure that the owner of the building is going to have a complete budget when we actually give it to them.
Okay. Is your job difficult?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, definitely stressful. Difficult in the sense that we're responsible for budgets, and if the budgets aren't right, then we lose money as a company.
Mm. Okay. So the stress is somewhat worth it too, though.
That is correct. Yeah. At the end of the day, the stress is worth it because it is fun working in that team environment, and everyone working towards the same goal is making sure that the budget is correct.
What's the largest budget you've done thus far?
It's a $300 million plus construction budget, just currently under construction.
What type of pressure did you feel, or how did you feel, better yet, when you knew that's what you were working on?
Definitely fun, but I'd say the stress came more so because I did that within my first 3 years of full-time employment. So I was really thrown to the wolves, if you will. But having to actually manage a portion of the budget solely and make sure I reach out to subcontractors was the stressful part. Like I said, I was not any more than 3 years out of school, and I was already managing a portion of that budget, whether it be 10 to 20% of it, of the whole 300 was mine to truly manage and make sure that everything was right, make sure all the quantities were right. I still had someone above me actually reviewing, but for the most part, I was the guy for that portion of it.
And what was your title at that moment? Was it the same title that you have now?
No, I was estimating engineer, just one level below or 2 levels below.
How many hours? Like, what's your actual work week look like? So I know a person that works at Walmart or somebody that's an hourly worker could be 9 to 5 is the common statement. Is that how your time actually is being utilized?
Yeah, it's similar. It's 8 to 5 for the most part. I mean, some days it's earlier, some days it's later. It just depends on what's going on. I'd say the crazy thing is that there's nothing steady about what I do. We have ups and downs. Like the winter, we get busy for some reason. The summers are busy, but then like the fall it's slow for some reason in the spring. It just depends on when projects are coming. Some days I could be working on 3 different projects. Some days I could work on just one for weeks at a time. Some days I can actually go to a job site and walk around on some of the projects I've actually worked on that are currently in construction and talk to some of the guys who are actually building it to understand what they're doing and get a better sense of it. Talk to some of the project managers. Some days I can, travel to a client's office out in Vegas. So it just depends. I'd say the good thing is that I'd say there's not a regular day. It's just the week is kind of typical. I don't say a typical day just because it varies so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's interesting. That's interesting. So when it comes to the time, I just want to be clear with people because there's a misunderstanding at times that people are paid for the time. Not everyone's getting paid for their time. A lot of people are getting paid for their value. So working at Walmart, you may get paid hourly because you need to be making sure you're stocking the shelves. And yes, it's bringing a great value to the company and that Walmart superstore that has over $1 million+ worth of product inside of it. But your hours are not defined by you simply working 8 hours. Because I know my job and I know your job. It's unlikely we're probably working 8 hours only a day. Like we're probably working more. Some days may be slower than others, but you might be working on the weekend. Like you said, you just flying out. That's not promising that the flyout's going to be on Thursday. You could be flying out on Friday afternoon to get there Saturday morning. And so when we're talking about time, that's what I'm trying to get at. So you don't have the normal schedule of a person who's simply waking up and going to work every day. Some days your schedule may be significantly different than the other.
That's correct.
Okay. And how do you feel about being forced to fly out for a customer in Vegas?
Fly for a customer in Vegas. That's the fun part. that's the fun part, especially when you get to actually have fun.
Yeah. I definitely understand. I was just a business development guy in the past, so I kind of understand the idea.
Yeah, I know you know all about that. Always being on the road there.
Yeah. That's the part where it's like you sign up and then you look around and you're like, if I'm here overnight for 3 days and I'm not in my own home, my own bed, am I really only working 8 hours? Because I'm not back in the luxury that I have now. Being in a hotel, eating good food, I'm not taking anything away from that. I absolutely love it. But it's also important to recognize that I don't have kids yet, but if I had kids, I mean, I'm missing time, quality time in person. For clarity, what's the main responsibility of your job?
Creating and maintaining budgets for buildings.
Okay. What makes your job important? Your job.
Well, Messer is a construction builder, right? We build buildings. Our client comes to us to get the buildings built and also to make sure that the projects are in budget. That's my piece, is making sure the project is in budget. So if the project is in budget, we end up hitting fee and we end up losing money. So that's the best way I can explain it, is that if we're over budget, it's coming out of our pocket at the end of the day.
And a $300 million project, what's the actual number risk of you being off?
We usually try to shoot for plus or minus 10%, which you think is a big margin, but really it's not that big. That can be a big number. But even on that building, we did our due diligence to make sure we were within 1% of the actual target, and we were still under budget. So that's the ultimate goal. And you would think that, oh man, you guys must have got some type of gift, or you guys celebrated, you got extra vacation time. And it's like, no, you did your job. Next project, keep moving on.
Yeah. But I want to be even more specific, because people need to hear the specific number because of how important your job actually is. Because it's similar to people saying, you're going to get, the United States is going to have over $30 billion in tax, going to have to pay over $30 billion in taxes. And what does that actually mean? It means that out of 300 million Americans, I think it's 300 million, out of 300 million Americans, we all got taxed additional 30 cents out of each check. And it's like, yeah, that wasn't as much money as I thought it was. But to say 30 billion sounds so horrifying that it's like, yo, we can't do that. And it's like, well, it benefits me. I'm willing to sacrifice 30 cents when I have to do all the work they do it over there for 30 billion. But here's the catch. You're talking about 300 million being off. You could be off to see this project like, oh, 300 million. I think it's about 290, which means you're potentially eating 10 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That'd definitely be the case.
Yeah, I just wanted that to be said out loud. $10 million is the potential risk, not $10, not a stack, $1,000, $10 million. So your job is very, very important that your company doesn't lose millions of dollars. And so it sounds like you were successful in doing that. So yeah, it's just important that people hear real numbers. That's what I'm saying. We say things, and because it's so normal for you, you don't realize that it ain't normal. $300 is still 300 million is still 300 million. I'm not even accustomed to saying 300 million. I'm quickly saying 300 every time. That's how uncommon 300 million is. So Getting more specific about the actual job, was there something specific about you that qualified you to be an estimator? Is there something specific that estimators do that is why you were qualified to have that job?
You mean in reference to I would say personality traits,
No, I
if
mean
you
like
will?
if could I just walk in and say, "Hey, I want to be an estimator for Messer"? I'm guessing I can't just decide to be an estimator for Messer. I don't think I'm qualified, but I could be wrong. You would know better than I would.
I mean, you could. I mean, if you really wanted to, I'm pretty sure they'd give you a shot. No, but I mean, there are certain basics. I would say at least we at least desire the background in construction. I think that's only the base thing. Otherwise, yeah, estimating anyone can do. You could do it. I'm doing it. Um, yeah, as long as you wanted to do it, you could do it.
Yeah.
It's just you have to actually have the desire to actually understand construction is the key.
And all jokes aside, I actually do enjoy estimating because I actually do estimate for my job. I don't
Yeah.
want to mislead. I do. I'm just saying that I enjoy all the things that go into my job opposed to only estimating. So I think estimating is pretty cool. It's pretty interesting experience because I've been doing it for, man, it's been a while. I think 3 months.
Right.
um, so I definitely know that what you all are doing is so vital to an actual company being able to do anything at all. But it's not the primary job that I would want to do. So I respect every single one of you guys out there doing it, and feel free, any of you guys out there are estimators, to give me a call if you know what I do. Um, okay, so having that assistance in figuring out this position inside of your company, how difficult would it be for a person out there today to become an estimator? This is 2020. Unfortunately, a lot of people are out of jobs. And so, how easy is it for someone qualified based off of what you shared that may not have even been thinking about it in the way that you did because they may have worked in the field and graduated from college and now they actually have some qualifications for your position and they didn't realize it, and they're exposed to it now. So how difficult would that person, how tough a time would that person have acquiring an estimator position?
I think it would be easy under given a couple of circumstances. One that you're detail oriented. Um, you don't mind working behind a desk for maybe 75% of your time, maybe a little bit less, but for the majority of the time, you don't mind working behind the desk. And then the last thing is that you don't mind working with softwares, and you're comfortable working with software. You're at least comfortable working in groups, working with people, and then ultimately you actually have to get comfortable working with the client. Most importantly, is because they can obviously take the job away from you if they don't like it. They don't like the way your attitude or something for some reason. So yeah, I say those couple of things make it, as long as you can do those things, being an estimator is easy. It ain't well. I'm say it's not easy. At least getting to that point is easy. Doing the work is still stressful.
Okay. And when it comes to the guys who worked out in the field that you may have worked around, those guys don't require a college degree, maybe a trade, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So to actually, I would say, manage the project, you wouldn't need a degree. However, to actually truly build the project, you don't need a degree. That is trades work. So you can actually go what's called a trade school, and actually learn how to do those things. So you can go to trade school and be a plumber, or be a they call them glazers. They install the glass on buildings, or to be a brick mason, or to install interior walls, or they call them drywall. Or you can go to trade school and install flooring or ceilings. So yeah, you can go to trade school and pick any particular thing you want to do from the building standpoint and actually do it. And it's great that we're talking about this because currently, or over the past, I'd say 2 decades, trade tradesmen have tradesmen and women have been declining. So there's actually a push to make sure we get those skill sets back into the industry.
Absolutely. And I worked for a concrete restoration company, and I definitely know that masons have been a major need, and it's just really interesting. I mean, I've had issues with my home, and we had to have a plumber come. And I remember having a great conversation. I love to learn more about what someone does and what made them choose it. And he was just like, "Man, I'm getting paid over 90,000 a year, and I'm probably going to be closer to mid 100s because I have a couple things that I'm setting up." Related to being a plumber. And he's like, people don't understand how much money is over here in this job because of what they see. And he actually took great pride in showing me what he was doing. He's like, look, man, I'm not even going to be doing a whole lot of work right now. Watch this, watch this. I twist this, I twist this. You know how much I get paid for doing that? And I was like, wow, okay. You know, I'm the one that has to pay you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it is, man.
But nonetheless, it's that's a very valid point. It's just like people are being told to go to college and go to university, and in the process, they don't realize, hey, you may leave out with a bill and no job. While if you go and get a trade degree, you may have actually paid off that trade school immediately, or with the money that you were co-op. Not sure, I don't believe the word is co-opting, but you were actually on the job working and training to get the job, paying it off with that right there. And it's like, hey, you leave out of there up tens of thousands compared to your peers who are still in school with no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
definitely a different mindset.
is a college degree required to do the job that you have?
Yes, a college degree is required. However, it doesn't have to be in construction. Um, it doesn't have to be a construction related degree. So we actually have an employee here who came from the business world, who has a business degree. However, he worked in the construction industry prior to coming to Messer. So not sure of his complete history, but I know he's more than 5 years out of college, and he worked at a construction company in some capacity before coming to Messer. I just know he has a business degree. However, you do need a degree to at least do what I'm doing.
Okay. And that can be a bachelor's degree. It doesn't have to be a master's or anything like that.
That's correct.
Okay. Repeat your degrees and what your experience was in college trying to pursue that degree.
So, yes, my major or my degree is Bachelor in Science and Architectural Engineering, and then it's a 5 year degree at UC. So what that entails is, at least from a coursework standpoint, is you obviously take all your basic courses, your common courses like physics, math, algebra, calc, um, whatever else. But beyond that point, then you kind of start getting into this true coursework, and that being kind of more construction focused, architecture focused, and construction focused, architecture, and then engineering focused. So we've taken classes learning we're learning the basics of how to design the structure of a building, learn the basics of how to design the the, the heating and cooling systems of a building, the electrical system of the building, and the plumbing system, and then also learning how to actually design a building from an architecture standpoint and make it look nice. And then the construction part is the final piece is actually how do you build it from a site logistics standpoint, protecting your own employees and protecting the public, as well as the cost standpoint, and then also the risk mitigation standpoint.
I want to stay in this whole time period of college, and better yet, the college you chose as well as the program. Now, I have my own understanding, but I would like for other people to know. So, what made you choose UC? Was there anything significant about its program and your actual degree?
Yeah, I would say it's purely been a co-op, purely the co-op program. Other schools offer it, but it's not necessarily truly integrated into the coursework. So UC started the co-op program. So I'm gonna take this time to big up UC, but UC started the co-op program and they've had it going for over 100 years, and everybody else kind of copied it. But nonetheless, the degree is 5 years long, and you'll go to class for one semester, co-op for the next, and you keep rotating until you graduate. Which makes it truly integrated. Whereas other universities, it may just be a summer thing, and they may help you find a job, they may not. Whereas at UC, it's intentional. They're helping you find a job. They already have the connections in place with the employers, and I actually called with Messer.
Okay, so you actually ended up at the company that you actually co-opted at, and so it essentially laid out the perfect blueprint for you to even get to the organization that you desire to work for. Now, with that, I want you to develop the experience as a co-op because I'm guessing that a lot of people uh, may have never heard of this title or may have never truly understood the idea of co-opting or being a person who, oh my goodness, I'm spacing on what the actual term is, but a lot of people do this when they go under somebody and learn more about the actual profession through just on the job training. So, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about what co-op looks like and what that experience is like.
So co-op is it's where you go work for a company, right? After you interview with companies, you get hired on, and it's actual paid. It's a paid internship basically, and we just call it a co-op because it's integrated in. However, on this paid internship for or slash co-op, you're doing like right now. I would have been doing the same thing I was doing as a co-op, just in a lesser capacity, right? I wouldn't have been actually kind of working high. I wouldn't have been actually managing, 10 to 20% of it. I would have probably worked on maybe 2% of it or 5% of it. Certain scopes that are easy to work with on a building, and then also with co-op, they allow you to actually bounce around to a different department. So estimating is more of an office setting role, whereas I've also worked actually on job sites and we call them requests for information and submittals and document control, where I've actually been able to do that for our project team. And then I've also worked in another department, which is a virtual design and construction, which is actually working with building models, working with 3D coordination, and helping out with proposals for future jobs. So co-op just allows you to bounce around to different departments and see different aspects of the company and see different projects and even go to different regions. I know people who've been out to California, I know people who've been over to Germany, who've been on to Florida. So it gives you that opportunity to get to different places and see the world in different light before you actually choose a full-time role at a company.
What made you choose? Because it sounds like you've had an array of experiences that allowed you to choose wisely about what you want to do once you got out of university. So, what actually was it, or what skill did you see within yourself that you're like, yeah, this is the thing that I should be doing? And not saying that this is the end goal, but I'm saying that this is
Yeah.
where you are at this moment.
Yeah. So currently, I'm in a I'm in a unique opportunity in that my schooling allowed me to develop a skill trait that I would say some of my competitors, and I say my competitors who are, people who are at the same level as me or graduated with me, they didn't necessarily have that skill set, and that being working with 3D models and working in that more so that virtual world for construction. Um, in this particular
What's a 3D
market,
model? I want to
I
stop
said
you for
about
a second. What's a 3D model
okay.
since you said that?
So a 3D model is if you think of a video game, it is just that for buildings. Right? So the building is in a virtual world where you can rotate it, you can look at it, you can examine it. All the building systems are there, in which we take that to try to understand it. So we have you have two-dimensional plans, which is, for lack of a better term, is archaic. But today we're trying to push to that more virtual world, so we can get stuff down. We can get stuff done a little bit faster and understand the building more so than what we will from two-dimensional plans on, not just being paper.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been able to develop a skill set due to schooling. So with that unique opportunity, um, I wouldn't have been able to truly exercise that if I was actually, on a job site for the rest of my life, or for some duration. Or there's another department at virtual design and construction. That's all they do. However, then I realized, man, I have another skill in estimating. I actually enjoy that. There is a way here that I can mesh these two worlds together, at least for Messer, because they don't. Messer at the time was pushing to get that done, but there was no, I would say, kind of, I would say, young mind or true champion that can say, hey, this is how we do this. I'm going to take the time to make sure we get this right. So I was able to kind of navigate into that role throughout opportunity, and I decided to take it. So today, um, that has been a let's say a skill set and asset of me of my history, is that I'm able to push that for the company and make sure we do that on all of our projects.
What is the blueprint for a person just graduated high school to become Damien at this moment? What was your blueprint?
Oh,
What exactly did you
oh,
do? Like you've talked a lot about it, but not being super detailed, just saying, I went to college, I got this degree, boom, boom. I'm not trying to explain everything out. Your exact things that you think were what qualified you for this job now, like the actual actions that you took.
oh, okay, yeah. Find the major, finding UC, making the decision to go to that school because of the co-op program, um, and then going to school, staying up on coursework, taking the time for co-op, and actually trying to figure out at least what I want to do, and using that opportunity to network and et cetera. And then networking with my peers and figuring out, hearing their co-op opportunities because they did different things as well, and then staying in tune with Messer, getting a mentor with Messer, and ultimately getting hired on full time. And then I'm able to still work under that mentor, which is a great thing.
Wow, how did you acquire? I think that's you said something that's really interesting, and I don't want to just walk past that. And it's very important that people heard you. Uh, how did you acquire that mentor, and what were you seeking to learn, or what did you learn from that mentor that was vital for your success?
I wasn't seeking the mentor. I think it happened by osmosis,
Mhm.
in that I was with him, co-oping under him for a semester, and realized that we had a lot of things in common in reference to he came from a similar background that I did. He came from a similar place, at least a similar mindset, and that he actually he actually let me know that he wanted to help. Not necessarily directly, but he did it in a way that I knew. Like, okay, he's actually trying to help me. Let me stay engaged with him. Um, and and then from there, me staying in contact with him intentionally staying in contact with me, and making sure that he kept me on part time. So, co-op is as a semester at a time. I actually worked part time with him, with Messer under him, while I was still in school. So that him intentionally keeping in contact with me and making sure that I was still working, making sure I was still learning, at least with the company and staying engaged with the company, meant a lot as well. And then him ultimately, pulling for me to get on full time and making sure that I didn't get lost to another company, was that intentionality. So it's his intentionality to stay in touch with me and make sure I got on board with him.
Nice. It's almost like an accountability person that's so hands-on that they even have the power to connect you. And that's where the conversation about it's not just simply what you know, but who you know. And in my opinion, I think there's the missing part where you're actually talking about, which is who knows you. And they knew
Mm-hmm.
you, they knew that you were qualified, and because they knew what you knew too. Um, so as we talk about that, and what's the trajectory for a person in your role, specifically, obviously, you?
No, I think the trajectory at the end of the day, can be is to lead an estimating department at whether it be Messer or whether it be another company, but is to get into a leadership role and actually lead the department. Then from there, depending on a few factors, is to actually get into a true leadership role within a company. That being like a vice president or CEO or whatever else it may be, would be the next step from there.
Okay.
I would hope to, no, I wouldn't hope, I want to actually lead the department and actually lead the entire estimating department. Whether I want to get to uh, CEO or COO, I'm not sure yet. Just because I don't know if I want to be that far away from estimating, just because I enjoy it that much. Who knows? Maybe that changes in the next 15 years. But I know right now, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to get to, is actually lead the estimating department and actually be a true leader within a company.
Okay. What's the best part of your job?
I say actually working in teams. I actually, surprisingly, I didn't think I would, but I actually enjoy working in teams and actually, listening to, I would say, the people. Obviously people come before me, whether it be my bosses or just peers who've been in the industry 20 or 15 years, and they're like, no, that's not how we would actually build this. This is how we would actually build. And they're telling me, actually inform me. I'm like, man, just being able to actually soak up that knowledge and then get an opportunity to work on a project on my own and share that same knowledge. And then people who've been in the industry 15, 20 years are looking at me like, dude, you've been here 5 years and you know that? Yeah, I pay attention, I listen. I think that's the enjoyable part is learning, continuously learning about the industry and being able to, share that with other people.
Yeah, yeah. How did COVID affect you since you said working in teams? So I mean, in theory, when people maybe maneuver into this position in the future, COVID will be over. Fingers crossed. I hear that there's a vaccine out there for all people who are willing to actually take it. Coming up soon, I guess. So, and in the future, I hope that we're not eating and regretting those words in the future. I hope this doesn't age badly. But nonetheless, to know what your job is like pre-COVID and post-COVID is important. So obviously working in teams was significantly easier prior to that. We're doing a Zoom call opposed to us doing this interview in person with better cameras because of COVID. So how has COVID impacted your job and even impacted what you love most about doing your job?
At least I'll start with the second question, is impact what I love about doing it. It hasn't actually impacted what I love about doing it. And if anything, it's actually strengthened it, because some of the tools I have, at least working in the virtual setting, is getting pushed even more because we're not able to sit by each other and look through plans. So where it's like, okay, we're only virtual. Let's pull up the models, look at it together, because everybody's in different places. And then in reference to how it's actually changed, that's consistent with the entire industry. So before, we could fit 100 people in a room. Now we can only fit like 50. Or we could fit 8 people in a room. Now we can only fit 4. That's the only way it's changed. So we're doing more Zoom calls on a regular, even though, my team members may be a seat over from me. We're doing Zoom calls with each other, and then also connecting with our project team who may be at different sites. So that, that's how it's changed. It's just that face-to-face interaction has decreased a lot into where now we're only over web.
I sent you this question in advance on purpose. I do not want your number. I want to know what is the ballpark number. And if you don't want to answer that because you don't necessarily know immediately, I can Google it on Glassdoor and share that on the bottom of the screen. But what's the pay scale for a person in your position?
Is it estimating entry first year to 10 years? I think the ballpark is 50 to 80,000, 50,000, 80,000, depending on the market, depending on the company, depending on the whole benefits and everything. Yeah. But that's pretty sure that's entry level. That's not 5 years. That's entry level is like 10 years, I believe. Yeah. So within the first 10 years of you graduating college and you work full time, you can be making anywhere from 50,000 to 80,000, depending on benefits and location and the company itself.
Okay. And so with you saying a number like that, and we can just say 50, because 50 is actually underestimated by a lot of people who don't actually understand what money looks like. They grow up saying they want to be rich, and rich isn't an actual number. 50 is an actual number. So let's say 50, because I know what a person can do with 50. Personally, I know what a person can do with 50. I know what a person can do with 30,000. I made 30 with 3 degrees. I was making $30,000. Decisions you need to make better. But when it comes to your actual salary, when it comes to a person working with $50,000, you can live a significantly good life. I've seen you took. Where was you all's honeymoon?
Where'd we go? And we've been in Jamaica. We've been in the Bahamas. We've been in Hawaii. Yeah, we've been a lot of good places, and all within the past 4 years. Yeah,
and we're talking about some of these places were resorts. I think I've seen in the pictures. People be Facebook stalking. I don't think it's stalking. You put it on Facebook, don't call it stalking. You shared it with me to look at. All right, so. With that means that's all inclusive. You're living like a king with the most beautiful views and just making $50,000. You don't make it. I don't know what you make. I'm just trying to stay in that number because I want people to recognize that you can truly live the life you want to live without being a millionaire. People are like, I need to make $1 million. Like, what car you want to drive? What shoes you want? Like, you can actually get to your number. Have you ever done that? This is a question that I have for you because I find that a lot of people haven't. Have you ever actually calculated what your personal number would be to live the ideal life that you want to live?
I actually have not. But I just never had that thought before. That's an interesting thought, though.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. There's an app that Tony Robbins has, and it's called. And I actually learned this from Money Master the Game, his book. And in the book, he actually talked a lot about this. And the app is actually called the Money app, Tony Robbins Money. And it
Hmm.
has this calculator where you actually go through and just write, like, it's very, very detailed. I think it's like 8 different pages worth of things, but it really actually allows you to see at the end of the day, you thought that you needed to make $150,000. When in reality, after we calculated your savings, your interest, your bills, what you want, like everything that comes into it, it only added up to be $93,000. And maybe it's because your brain hasn't really calculated levels of life that you haven't lived yet. But it's an amazing thing to do. So I definitely want to suggest everybody who's uh, watching to actually check that out because it's a great tool to learn that. Sir, I didn't have your degree. So I recognize that you probably had significantly more difficult classes than I did. I had difficult classes, but they may not have been all as difficult as yours. So I'm not going to act like uh, we're equal in that equation. So when I asked this question, I wanted to just say that in advance. Um, was college easy? And I asked that question because many times people get intimidated by this idea of going to college. And I'm be honest with you, it was easy for me. Um, I also don't think it was necessarily my degree that made it easy. I think it just wasn't hard. I felt like you just had to do your work. Um, and it was that simple in my opinion. I say all the time, and I'm not promoting this, but I'll definitely say my laziest quarters and semesters were the semesters in which I actually got dean's list. Not saying that's something I suggest anyone do, but yeah, that's actually true. So, was college difficult?
Yeah, definitely. College is definitely difficult. Um, there are obviously some classes that are going to be easy, but those hard classes are the ones that I remember the most. I don't remember. I just don't remember my easy classes. I remember the hard classes, and those hard classes are like structural design or
What are they?
structural design, like structural design, actually designing the structure of the building. That's a hard class. At least for me, it was. But at that point, I knew I didn't actually want to design a structure, so I was like, I don't really want to do this. But then other classes like calculus came easy to me because I enjoy working with numbers. Calculus made sense to me at the time. I don't remember too much now, but at the time it made sense. Algebra made sense. Physics made sense. But some of those other classes like HVAC design is not. It isn't easy. It's easy, but I didn't enjoy doing it because I didn't actually want to do it. So you know, in some degree, I made it hard for myself, and I probably shouldn't have. But
Hmm.
yeah, so but holistically, it's a fun experience. If you do your work, everything should be fine. I still graduated with a. I didn't graduate dean's list or anything, but I graduated with above I think a B minus average, it's like 2.7, 2.8 or something. So
Okay, I actually think that was important to tell as well. Your grade, your general grades, because sometimes people just question whether or not they have to go to this specific university or be summa cum laude or something like that. In reality, I think ET said the greatest quote in my opinion. He was like, "Your degree doesn't say how long you were in college for." So some people took a little bit longer than others. It's like your degree doesn't say that. When you get hired, they want to know, can you do what we hired you to do? Not
yeah,
necessarily did you pass English one. Like we want to
right.
know, are you capable of fulfilling all of your job requirements? And so that was really good that you actually even mentioned that part. So there's a pattern here, and I already knew this, of course, but I wanted you to say it, which I knew you were going to do. And it sounds like a person who wants to take on your position, or a person who may even take on your position in the future, is a person who really enjoys math. And this is the perfect industry for a person who enjoys math. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, because that was ridiculous to say that calculus was easy, but yeah, okay. that was that was like a humble stunt right there. I just want, yeah. I mean,
Hey,
calculus was easy. I actually fell
math always
asleep and
works,
woke up
man.
with all the answers on my paper one night. I didn't even know how I did it. But
One plus one
okay,
is always two.
you said what?
1 plus 1 is always two. So it's that's easy.
See, that's why we need people like your brain to actually see that, because I see 1 plus 1 equaling 3 or a million, or 1 plus 1 equaling 0, because me and you working together to build a building, um, well, I guess I have the skill set to go sell it, but to actually follow through with the entire process, because I haven't done that. I think you would be dragging me along, and I wouldn't be equal to you. So I don't think I'm a true one. I would be more of 0.7. While if you went ahead and acquired your mentor, where it was 1 plus 1, he's more of a 2 in reality, but you see one person. So he's really dragging you, but you're already talented. So I'm just saying 1 plus 1 isn't always 2, especially if a person doesn't even have the skill set. Because now that's that person in the group project that ain't do no work. They just showed up with a smile on their face, like, so you want me to sign my name? You can write this. Okay, you write my name down for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we need people so literal, and people like yourself that are out there that actually get the job done, because they're not being so esoteric in their thoughts, and slowing the whole thing down. Um, but so just, is there another profession, if you weren't doing this one, with these same skills, that you would be doing? Like if you could choose a whole nother profession, if it wasn't this one, because I know what you want to do, um, which we do still need to go back to the trajectory for your profession, for your actual job. What would that be?
I don't know. That's a tough one, man. I never thought about that. Same, same skill set. What would I do?
You couldn't be an accountant? I feel like you, I mean, you in numbers, you seem like an accountant, or even a project manager, if I'm honest.
You, yeah, you could. I was thinking of what I would actually want to do.
Yeah, touche,
That was
touche.
how I would actually want to do that. But I don't know. I've been thinking. I've been thinking about that recently, and I've been leaning more towards the real estate investment or real estate agency. Just kind of getting into that world, that industry. I like to get into that industry because I'm not exactly sure what that truly would mean. But based on my skills, that I could easily transition into that industry without any issues.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give you a call at some point, because I'm talking to friends about investing in real estate, and the best way to do it is to actually do it and learn exactly what to do. See how this whole thing happens. Somebody tells you, I'm not talking to you, Damien. Somebody actually tells you something, and if you have connections, you can connect them, or you can talk to them about what that goal is and connect them with other people. This is the importance of actually talking about real stuff with your friends, opposed to whether or not LeBron is the GOAT. Um, super biased as
Saying
a
that because
person
you're a
from
Cavs.
Cleveland.
Yeah,
Super
yeah,
biased as a
Cleveland.
person from Cleveland. Uh, but one of the final questions, and I know it's out of order, but how free do you feel financially at this moment?
Right now, uh, I'm not free. I'm not free, and that's only because of student loans. However, in my mind, I know that the student loans I have I use them intentionally. Whereas I used them intentionally. I knew what I was doing, and I did what I could to mitigate them. However, I knew that I was going to graduate with student loans. However, I've looked at this multiple times with my wife, and I know once those student loans are gone, it's going to be a different ballgame. I'm not going to be rich, but I'm living comfortable now. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable. It's going to be a little bit more jovial. Actually, be able to, I would say, not necessarily retire earlier, but I would say my retirement it's gonna enjoy it. I know I'm gonna enjoy it. I know I'm gonna be able to enjoy life and enjoy a little bit few more luxuries.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that honesty, especially when it comes to student loans, because we talked about trades and people really underestimating themselves just going to college. Like, heck, I even say I did it to some degree because I was told to go to college without necessarily knowing immediately what I wanted to do. Now, I believed I wanted to be a psychologist. I really did. And then I took some psychology courses. I talked directly with my actual psychology professor during his personal time, and I learned I didn't really want to do that. And then I got a degree in another degree in journalism. So bachelor's in psychology, bachelor's in journalism, and master's in sociology. For anybody that knows, I think somebody told me when I came to my orientation and I told her I was getting a degree in psychology, and she started rattling them off. And I'm gonna say all three of those majors fell under the category of, what did she call them? Nothing degrees. And I didn't understand it then, but when you graduate with your master's and two other degrees and you end up making $30,000, yeah. But you can make a lot of money in psychology if you want to do the years and get your doctorate in psychology.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and as a person who fought so hard to get out of student loan debt, I absolutely appreciate you saying that, because that stress is real. And my suggestion to you, if I'm honest with you and anybody watching, is to honestly prepare for that moment in which you get out of student loan debt. I don't know what your number actually is. We all had our own different numbers because we all maybe took out additional loans for whatever reasons. Hopefully it was all responsible reasons. And nonetheless, when I got out of it, I definitely would say that the way I always seen it, and it sounds like you see it the same way, it's like you can get a raise from work, but when you get done with paying student loans, you get a raise in life. Like, it's like, I didn't even have to go get another job to make $500 more a month. I was paying $500 a month. I was making $30,000 pre-tax, and I want to say my check for 2 weeks was, I want to say, about $900. Boy, that $1,800 at the end of the month. Whew, we're talking about rent, bills. I think I had like $300 to myself, mixed with me saving money too. Oh,
Yeah.
but it's important that we and people have these type of conversations, because some people like to say that don't actually have our student loan debt. They went to college when it was significantly cheaper, and then they want to tell us, well, it's good for you to have the type of debt because it teaches you and makes you drive. And it's like, shut up. You're not experiencing what we experienced. So we not whining about this. You understand, you're thinking about saving money because you're free. Now, I didn't truly start thinking about saving. No, not say I always thought about saving, but the actual types of thoughts like real estate, like you mentioned. You don't really start thinking about real estate unless you really got money sitting aside, allocate $500 a month to student loans. Yeah. No. So I think even that conversation is really important for people to have and be transparent, because people don't like talking about money. And I think that's what really messes with us, especially adults. Don't even understand what money really looks like. They buy a cup of coffee every single day, and then by the end of the year, you have spent hundreds of dollars, and you're like, where's my money been going? It's like, you get Starbucks. That's how much is that after you get all the glittery and maybe a muffin with it? You paid over $10. Like, what was
a day?
You do that every day? I mean, after 10 days, just half of your month, we had $100. So you clearly spending over a stack just on that. So I definitely appreciate it, man. So if you were to go back in time and talk to freshman year Damien, what would you tell him to expedite the process of getting you to where you are now, or even further along? If there's anything you could tell him that would help him get there faster.
Yeah, I would have taken that McNair scholarship when it was offered to me.
Well, why did that matter?
The McNair scholarship, if I recall correctly, was I can't remember if it was full, but it was definitely a majority of schooling paid. And then they also would have help pay to go to grad school. So student loans could have been a lot less than what they are today, and all I had to do was keep my grades up.
Hmm. Okay. Nice. Well, I definitely understand that. I think, and this is the last thing we'll say since you stayed on student loans. I was just saying in general, but obviously, if you had gotten that scholarship, in theory, you would be getting paid more right now with the same salary. And people
Yeah.
don't even realize that. I remember when I was making 30,000, and one of my peers, she was like, "Oh, we make about the same," and she had somebody pay her parents pay for college, and she went to Xavier. And I think it was, I think she might have said she was making like 35, 37. And I was like, well, here's the catch. Well, I don't think I said it to her because I was just being professional, but I was thinking it. If me and you both say make $30,000, you don't have student loans, and I do. You make $500 more, or better yet, you keep $500 more than I do. So my 30 and your 30 are not the same at all. And that's very important for people to acknowledge. And that's why I wanted to bring that up, because it's like, hey, man, me and my wife, we'd have more money in the house if I would have took that McNair scholarship, is essentially what you're telling me.
Hmm.
Is there anything you would tell younger you that would help you professionally, not just financially?
Yes, I would have definitely been more intentional about networking and at least uh, not being so not letting the stigma around STEM majors allow me to kind of shell into that. So the stigma around STEM majors is that definitely book smart, can do all the technical stuff, but stigma around STEM majors is that we're not good at the people skills and communication. Um, I think I kind of took that and I was like, oh, well, this is normal. I can just kind of let it be. When in reality, that's not the case. Like, you get to the professional world and I realize I'm working in teams every day. I have to I have to network. I have to be good with communication. And I would say I would have not if I going back and telling my freshman self, don't let that be a stigma. Don't fall into that I would say that what do they call it? Don't fall into that comfort zone. Get outside yourself and develop that skill trait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a word for itself, because I definitely recognize. And for the record, anybody who doesn't know what STEM is, that's science, technology, engineering, and math. That's what the STEM majors are. And I know sometimes we talk about STEAM, and that includes the arts. So what you just said is important, because you find that a lot of people in your position, a lot of people in STEM, tend to be individuals who have could be considered high IQs, and yet ironically they have low EQs. IQ tends to reflect the actual content in which you can take in, and you can retain, and how smart you can become. In theory, that's the idea. But when it comes to the EQ, and I know you may already know what EQ is, but I want to make sure that the audience knows what EQ is. EQ is emotional intelligence. That's you understanding how to read a situation between two people, you knowing how to approach another person and having a proper discussion with them about something that concerns you, something you need help with, or even approaching somebody to be your mentor. Knowing how to do that, and it allows you to have opportunities across the board, because frequently, I mean, pretty much every job is going to require you to engage with somebody, unless you're, I guess, maybe IT. And I'm speaking off the cuff because I'm just making that guess, because they can work with computers. If you're like a coder, you may not need to engage people, but it still would be helpful then in allowing you to move up the ladder. I assume I'm not an IT guy, or in that industry, but I think you hit some spot on. People really underestimate the importance of emotional intelligence and having the social skills to engage people, and frankly selling themselves, because we've had a conversation multiple times, and I've told you directly, and I'm gonna say it on camera. If I had Damien's skill set and I had my gift the gab to sell, I absolutely would. Man, Messer would know me. You understand me? Messer would know me, because the skill set that man got is amazing, and he's way too freaking humble. Sometimes I think you just throw humble out the door because you need to be louder. Because if you ain't loud enough, people don't hear you. The audience is talking and it just sounds like muffles. But the person who grabs the microphone, people shut up. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes you got to speak a little louder. And Damien don't speak super loud, but his talent does. And if he learned how to speak as loud as his talent did, this interview will go a lot further than just the people like y'all watching, but the people in Mesa getting a heads up to figure out what we gonna do with my guy right here. But man, I definitely appreciate your time, and I don't know if you have anything that you want to leave people with related to your job. If it was a younger version of yourself, a kid out there, or even an adult trying to figure out what they want to do, and any words of wisdom.
Yeah, yeah. I go back to networking, communication in our industry, construction industry. That's key. And I would say, in most professions, that's key. You got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to work in teams. You got to be able to actually kind of read the room and know who you're talking to, and being able to present and talk to anybody. So, like you said, it's not about what you know; it's about who you know, because that who you know can actually get you in the door.
All right. Well, this has been the first of these interviews, and it's so fresh that it doesn't even officially have a title yet. But by the time you're watching this, there's a title on it. And that's how cool this thing is, because we're creating content without being so focused on what the title is. But hopefully you've gotten out of this that you could actually enjoy what you do. You can live the life you want to live without being rich. And if you want to be rich, put a number on it, and that number could be 50,000. If that is what equals all of your heart's dreams and desires, it ain't a problem. Ain't a problem. But with that being said, I'm gonna leave y'all with an inside way to salute my friend off, and that is go mob.
Come on.